In the midst of an offseason with some very difficult contract decisions for the Toronto Raptors, Fred VanVleet has been deemed a priority for Masai Ujiri to bring back for next season. But just how much money is Fred VanVleet worth? Let's get into it. Welcome to Amateur Hour Sports, where we are oh so close to that 500 subscriber mark. So if it is your first time here with me today and you like what you see, you want more from me, more NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors, please hit that subscribe button down below. On our way to 500, I would very much appreciate it. But on to today's topic, Fred VanVleet's contract situation, because he is a free agent right now. The season is over. He is a free agent. He is welcome to sign wherever he wants. So the Raptors need to get some work done to bring this man back to Toronto for another few seasons. There's been a lot of thought into how much Fred VanVleet is worth, because we know he's in for a big payday. He was only making $9 million a year last year, and he's going to be a lot higher than that. The jumps that he's made, his ability to perform very well in postseason games, his value is going up. And I think his stock kind of increased over the course of the bubble, because he played very well in the remaining regular season games in the bubble as well as in the playoffs. He had some not so great games against the Boston Celtics, but he did have some great games and was fantastic in the Brooklyn series, albeit against a G League caliber team. But Fred VanVleet, he has good stock. There are teams interested in this guy, and it's not just for what he brings you from an offensive standpoint, which is very good, but he is so good off the ball, especially on defense. He is a great off-the-ball defender and also a great on-ball defender. There are a lot of things you like about this guy's game. He has a lot of assets about him. So just how much? How much we talking here? I think what needs to be considered is that, well, Pascal Siakam's max contract is about to kick in. It kicks in this offseason, so that's a lot of money tied up in there. But we did get rid of the Gasol contract, which was expensive, and Ibaka is also a free agent, and there's no indication about what's going to happen here, whether or not they're going to sign him. But also, OG Anunoby is still on his rookie deal, so you need to save money for when that contract is up. And also, the Raptors are really pursuing a max free agent in the next offseason. That's what they're saving their money towards, because right now only 3 players have a contract that goes beyond next offseason. That is Pascal Siakam with his max contract. Matt Thomas is on, I think, $3.5 million, and Duan Hernandez is on about the same. Those are the only 3 players who are still on contract right now who have a contract that goes beyond the next offseason. Norman Powell does have a player option worth about, I think it was $16 million, something around there. I think it's a player option that's mid-10s, and that Norman Powell, I think, will be inclined to take. But Fred VanVleet, I think that everybody kind of understands he's worth a lot, and that everybody who is a Raptors fan wants to keep Fred VanVleet. But the question is, not the want, it's how far will you go before too much is too much? Because the Knicks have big interest in our man Steady Freddy. So if they go to a certain point, what is too much? I think for starters to say, Fred VanVleet is worth, to me, 18 to 22. If we secured him within the $18 million to $22 million a year range for 4 years, I would be content, because he's 26 years old. He's about to enter the prime of his basketball career. I'd be happy with that. If they can get him for $20 million or over $20 million, but under 22, I would be happy. I think that is what he is worth. He is, like I said, great on offense, but also led the NBA in deflections per game on defense. I think he was top 3 in steals per game with 1.9. He was great all throughout this season when he was healthy, and he has put on some great playoff performances this season, and he had some of the biggest and best playoff performances of last year. I mean, in the Golden State series, this guy was absolutely unbelievable. The shots he was hitting down. Did you know Fred VanVleet got a Finals MVP vote in that series? That is how good Fred was in the playoffs last year, after Fred Jr. was born, of course. I think he was a key piece in us even winning that Milwaukee series, because he came alive in games 4, 5, and 6, hitting some ridiculous shots. And same with the NBA Finals, where he was D'ing up Steph Curry very well. I mean, the best you can do on Steph Curry, the way that guy is, obviously. But Fred VanVleet was great on defense and was tremendous on offense, especially in Game 6 when he put up 22 points. 16 of those points came in the second half. This guy has done it as a Raptor. Got a finals MVP vote when Kawhi Leonard was there. So yeah, big respect to Fred VanVleet. But how high is too high? Like I said, I'd be happy with a cap of about $22 million. But what if the Knicks came in and offered $25 million? It's a very difficult decision to make. I think that if the Knicks go 23 or 24, you match. It's very painful to think about this. But if the Knicks offer Fred VanVleet $25 million, I think that is just a little bit too much for the Raptors to give, especially given all the other contract situations that need to be sorted out. I think Fred VanVleet is an essential piece of this team, but when you've got all this money tied up in guys like Siakam, you need to tie up money in OG Anunoby, and you need to put out a competitive team around those guys next season. I think it's very difficult when you start to go into the high 20s for Fred VanVleet's contract situation. I think I'd be okay to match a $24 million bid from the New York Knicks. Going above 25, I find that a little bit harder. I think maybe in the moment when I know, like if I'm the guy making the decision for the Raptors, if I'm the guy who's making the decision and I know the Knicks offer him 25 and Fred says either you match it or I'm gone, I still may just give him the $25 million. Even though I would heavily try to negotiate that lower, I still would do that. Above $25 million, completely, we got to let him go, unfortunately. What I'm getting from Fred VanVleet, and I think that there's some people who won't think he's even worth the $22 million that I've kind of labeled him on. I would love to get him at 20 to 21, but would go happily up to 22. There's some people who won't think he's there for various reasons, like, his stats this season weren't that of a tremendous player. They were of a great player, but not, that superstar. He wasn't an all-star. Doesn't look like these stats would tailor towards an all-star. And the fact that he's undersized, so in games against big teams like last year in the playoffs against Orlando in the first round or Philadelphia in the second round, he was abysmal. He was a non-factor. He was just a complete bench role player in those games because the size of the Magic and the size of the 76ers completely nullified Fred VanVleet's game. And sure, he was in some struggles, and after he had Fred Jr., his son, he started playing very well again and even struggled at the start of the Milwaukee series. But will we see ever a trend of those things happening? We did see glimpses of those poor playoff performances in the Boston series. Nothing as bad as he was against Orlando, Philly, or the start of the Milwaukee series, but still, some alarming signs were there about Fred VanVleet. Also, another sign is that he has had some injury problems in the past. So can we expect him to be healthy for a playoff run if we get there next season? We'll have to see there. The bubble really helped him this year because after the lockdown period, he was finally fully healthy for a playoff run. And he has had some playoff runs where he wasn't quite fully healthy and he wasn't at his best. But I think we saw this season what his best can be and what it can become. It can be even better than what it is at this present moment. I have a very nice comparison here between Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry. Obviously, the greatest Raptor of all time. He's on $31 million next year? Kyle Lowry, let's compare his third season with the Raptors to Fred VanVleet's fourth season with the Toronto Raptors. So, Kyle Lowry at 28 years old was having his third season with the Toronto Raptors, where he put up 18 points a game, 7 assists per game, 5 rebounds per game on 41% shooting from the field, 34% shooting from three-point land. Also had a nice 81% shooting total from the free throw line and an effective field goal percentage of 48%. Kyle Lowry in that season was an all-star for the first time in his career. Fred VanVleet in his fourth season with the Toronto Raptors, where he started the season at 25 years old, put up 18 points per game as well, 7 assists per game as well, 4 rebounds per game, which is one tick below Kyle Lowry, with 41% shooting from the field, the exact same as Lowry there, and 39% shooting from three-point land, which is well above Kyle Lowry's numbers in his third season with the Toronto Raptors. Also, Fred VanVleet shoots better from the line at 85% and had a better effective field goal percentage of 51% compared to Kyle Lowry's 48%. That was Fred VanVleet this season compared to Kyle Lowry's third season with the Toronto Raptors in 2014-2015. So if Kyle Lowry can just take that jump the very next season up to 21, 22 points per game, I don't see any reason why Fred can't take a much bigger role in the offense already. Like, he's gone from a 6th Man of the Year candidate, a finalist, in fact, for that award, to the jump from last year to this year at 18 points a game. I think he can go above 20 next year. So why can't he get paid over $20 million to be a Toronto Raptor next year? Because these signs are there. He's about to enter his prime. He is going to be better than he was this season. It's just, how much are you willing to stake on him to be the focal point of the offense? Because we know Kyle Lowry's career is going to start running down. Like, he's well into his 30s at this point. So can you stake your franchise's offense on it being run by Fred VanVleet? I think so, because as he progresses in his career and gets better, I think, his decision-making let him down in the playoffs a little bit against the Celtics. I think as he gets into his prime, that is going to improve. And the fact that he has such great chemistry with our franchise player, Pascal Siakam, is even better, because he's going to be able to play with him with such fluid movements. Like, those two are so good together at creating offense, not in the playoffs, but those two are so good together at creating offense that I think it is necessary to give Fred VanVleet this money. I say this a lot, but the thing about players who win an NBA championship, they get that ring early on in their career, is that when it's time to start getting paid, like Fred VanVleet is, you don't need to factor in winning necessarily into your contract decision of where you go. So he can go to the Knicks and he can make a ton of money and be the face of New York, because he's already got his championship ring. He doesn't need to find a team that is going to guarantee winning, guarantee contention for a championship, because he's already done that. He can go to a place for whatever his agenda is. If he wants to go get money, he can go to New York. If he wants to be the face of a franchise, sure, he can also go to New York, because, Fred VanVleet is the face of the And One sneaker company. So would he rather be just another guy at Nike or the face of And One? You'd probably take the face of a lower tier company like And One. So in the same sense here, not that he's just another guy in the Raptors, but does he want to be kind of the face of a New York Knicks, a storied franchise like that? Or does he just want to be still a focal point with the Toronto Raptors, but not quite at, the number one guy there? That's the difference here. It's just what he wants. Can the Raptors give him enough of what he wants? Because surely he's going to want to get paid. Does, he want to go to the team that gave him the chance when nobody else would after he went undrafted, built him into the player he is, got him his NBA championship? Does he want to respect that team with a bit of a discount? I'm not sure. We don't know what exactly Fred VanVleet wants. But what I do know is that I want this guy to be a Toronto Raptor next season. I'm willing to go to great lengths if I'm in that position to ensure that he stays with the Toronto Raptors for the foreseeable future. And if I have to give him a contract in the low 20 million range, I will do that to ensure he's here, because, he's similar to Kyle Lowry in the way that he's slowly developing into his prime, but it seems like he is developing quicker into that prime than Kyle Lowry did. Fred VanVleet has really found a place that suits him, and the way Fred is off the ball and on the ball, how good he is in both regards, on defense and on offense. He is a key piece and an essential piece for the Raptors if they want to contend in the future. I think Fred VanVleet has the potential to be a fringe all-star, a guy who maybe sneaks into an all-star team or just misses out. I think he'll be similar to the way Mike Conley is in that regard, where, not quite an all-star, but just on the cusp of it. I think that is the caliber of Fred VanVleet, and if he's there, and if he somehow gets into an all-star team, I would be completely over the moon for the guy. I'd be so happy for the guy. I think his stats are of a player who can become an all-star. That is why he is so important for the Raptors franchise. So what do you guys think about this contract situation? What do you think Fred VanVleet is worth? And what is the max you would pay him before? Unfortunately, you have to decide. It's too much money. Unfortunately, we can't give it to him. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm really curious. There's a lot of contrast and opinion from Raptors fans about how much Fred VanVleet is worth. Let me know your opinion down below. But thank you so much for watching Amateur Hour Sports. Please like the video if you did enjoy at any point, and subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports for more content just like this as we are on the road to 500 and onward. I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button as we try to hit 500 subscribers on the channel. At the end of the day, I believe what I say, and if you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time.